My name is Courtney Davila, and welcome to Diaries of a Fashion Stylist. First of all, you're all new here, so I will say welcome to all of my beautiful new listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in. Truly, it means the world. I have to admit, I've had this idea for a podcast for many years, and the one thing that made me break down and do it was I saw another stylist in my network release a podcast. And oh my gosh, there's nothing that will set fire under a stylist like that horrible competitive air between us. And that's all instilled in the industry. So that is one of the pillars of what I call the old guard of the styling industry that I want to work to break down, because that's not fun. I don't want to see my other stylists as competition. I mean, we are technically, but I don't want to let that hate foster, right? I want community. So that's part of why I'm here. Another thing we're going to talk about today is what a stylist actually does and the journey of how I got here, because that is one of the most frequently asked questions I get from friends, family, is how did you become a stylist? And let me tell you, it has been a journey, but I'm so excited to finally tell you my story. So get ready, grab your tea, your coffee, whatever you need today. I cannot wait for us to chat. So today I thought we could start at the beginning. How did Courtney become a stylist? Well, if you don't know me, let me introduce myself very briefly. My name is Courtney Davila. I'm a fashion stylist. You could probably surmise that much so far, but here I am. It's so good to meet you. I am born and raised in Orange County, California, which is where I currently live. I work in and out of Orange County and LA, which is about an hour away from me without traffic. That's another conversation for another day. But I work with majority of personal styling clients. I also do a lot of editorial shoots. I also love specializing in e-commerce and brand shoots, commercials. I've done a few. So that's kind of my niche and my specialty. It is my dream to work with musical artists, so you'll hear me talk about that a lot. But that's just a brief overview of who I am and what I do. There's so many facets to me as a human being, and I love sharing and expressing all of them. And so I hope over the course of this podcast, you get to know me, and I'd love to get to know you as well. So if you'd like to stay connected with this podcast, if you'd like to interact, I hope you choose to do so. You can follow me on Instagram at Diaries of a Fashion Stylist. And I'd truly love to connect with you on there, because without community, we have nothing. That's just a belief I live my life by. So thank you for being here. Allow me to set the scene for you. I'm 3 years old. I'm wearing my favorite pleated pink dress. I'm holding on to my teddy bear, whose name is Jingles. I've decided that they are both a boy and a girl, right? Just way ahead of my time, right? Kids are just on another level. And I want to make clothes for this bear. So I asked my parents, do we have any fabric? How can I make clothes for my bear? It's a boy and a girl, so it can wear a dress one day and pants the next day, okay? This was the early 2000s. I thought I was doing something radical. It's just human nature, but I don't know. It still kind of holds to this day. I had a non-binary bear. Let's talk about that. But my parents were like, okay, you want to sew? They didn't really think much of it. They gave me some fabric. I think they probably gave me some needles a little bit when I was older, and they just kind of let me have at it. And as I got older and I really expressed interest, and I think I was stapling pieces of felt together, that my dad finally pulled me aside and he said, look, Courtney, I'm going to teach you how to sew. So I'm probably in about second grade at this point. I'm stapling pieces of felt together. It's not, I could do better, right? And so it's a beautiful thing that my dad, the paternal masculine figure in my life, sat down and taught me how to sew. And my dad, both my parents have been huge inspirations and huge supporters of my career. But having a dad who was so willing to forego masculine stereotypes has been, oh my gosh, the privilege and the gift of a lifetime. I love him so, so much. And so both my parents fostered my career, but he was the one who taught me how to sew. Sorry, Mom. And he taught me how to sew with the hand, with the needle and thread. And he knew because his dad taught him how to hem his own pants, which is really cool. And so he taught me just some basic stitches. And that's all I needed. I would steal my mom's fabric scraps. I would cut up things I had in my closet. I would dig for things around the house, and I started to sew. And nothing was looking great. It was all choppy. I was a kid, but I was so excited and happy to have this tool, this ability where I can now transform raw materials into a product. I could dream up things and create them. So originally, as a kid, I thought I would either be a fashion designer or an artist. I also loved drawing and painting and just creating anything I could do, baking. I was obsessed with all of it. I was not a sporty kid. I refused to play sports. As a team, I was so afraid of getting injured. Just any chance there was to be active or play a sport or be on a team, I was like, nope, that's not for me. I want to be inside, reading a book, coloring a coloring page, like eating a cookie, like do not bother me. So I was very introverted, and I like to call very delicate from the start. And a little bit of that is true to this day. I've tried to be more active and more team oriented, but I was an only child for my first 4 years of my life. So I was very used to playing by myself and entertaining myself, and art and expression was one of the ways I did that. And, so was playing dress up. I would love to play dress up by myself and create characters and act and pose in the mirror. I was also obsessed with being recorded on video camera. My dad would take out his little camcorder, VHS tape, and record us, and I'd always have to be front and center. I was such an attention hog. So if anyone can relate to that, let me know. I am a Libra, so tried and true, have just always been creative, a big dreamer, and loves the spotlight. So that's a little slice of what I was like as a kid. Now, going into high school, I had the opportunity to go to college, so I was like, what's on my mind? What do I want to do with my life? And I didn't have a big idea, but I didn't really care. I kind of thought I'd figure it out, and I did. My dad ended up putting a bunch of colleges together for me. Again, the privilege speaks for itself. I'm not a first-generation college student. My grandparents did immigrate here, so they gave us a lot more opportunities, but both my parents went to college. They either have bachelor's or master's degree respectively. So me going to college was a no-brainer. It was something I quote unquote had to do before I could pursue any sort of career, whether creative or not. I knew they were going to support me, but I had to go and get that degree, which I think is a beautiful thing, especially as a woman. My parents wanted me to be completely financially dependent, which is funny because I am currently not, but I'm working toward that, and I understand what they meant by that. So I'm in high school. My best friend Jason, he creates this fashion club to go to FITM because they give you a fat discount on the tuition if you create a FITM fashion club. And I was like, maybe I'll go there. My dad's like, no, you need to go to a 4-year school and get a degree. And I was like, fine. And so he came up with a list. Cal Poly Pomona was one of the schools on that list, and that was the only one I visited. And I don't know if I was just feeling lackadaisical, if I felt very trusting in my parents, but I was like, whatever. I toured it, and I was like, I'll go there. Fine. I was like, this is the choice I have. I can either go there or I can major in something completely different. My dad knew I wanted to go into fashion, and Cal Poly Pomona had a fashion program called Apparel Merchandising and Management. And that is where I ended up going for 4 years after high school, I go to college, and I have the time of my life. I meet many lifelong friends, and I learn about the fashion industry, the ins and outs, and so many things that I think I never would have even thought of. I mean, I learned about textiles. I learned about the business aspect of fashion. I learned about supply chain management. I learned about production, things that I don't remember, but I know my friends work on, and that's amazing and lovely, and buying and Excel spreadsheets, right? Important stuff that you can't always get from a design school. So I really appreciate that. But still, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I think I just imagined myself automatically working in a corporate field because that was what my father had done. And it seemed stable, it seemed safe, and it seemed like a good option for me, right? I'm like a goody two-shoes person. I can get along with almost anyone, and I can put my head down and be a worker bee. Like, I know how to do that. And so working in the corporate side of fashion, whether it was buying or merchandising or marketing, I was like, I can probably get a job in that. But was like a certain passion calling to me? Not really. And that was until I heard about fashion styling. And I'm pretty sure the first time I heard about the career was in this Teen Vogue fashion career book. And I will post a photo to the Diaries of a Stylist Instagram so you can see it. But it's this beautiful little book. Someone got me. I think I was still in high school. And I remember flipping to the page on fashion styling. And the stylist featured is actually the woman who dressed J-Lo in the famous dress that created Google Images. I will also refer to that page in the book. But something spoke to me and I was just like, yep, I think that's it. I think I'm going to be a fashion stylist. And I truly do not know how I made all these decisions in my life. Again, so lackadaisically, so like rationally, I consider myself a very worrisome person who is quite indecisive. Again, the Libra trait. But looking back, I made these decisions so easily and so intuitively. And it's really good for me to reflect on that and be like, oh, my intuition was so clear and I just followed it. So that's a good reminder for current Courtney. But yeah, I remember seeing that word fashion styling. I'm sure I Googled it and looked around, and I looked into being an assistant for a fashion stylist. There's a lot of postings always online for assisting celebrity stylists. And one thing I noticed is that they were all unpaid. And I thought to myself, look, this is hard work. I'm going to be driving into LA, assisting these celebrity stylists, doing all these crazy things that I have no idea what they are because my school curriculum was not covering styling. It's not a career that they focused on in their curriculum. And that was okay with me. I knew that I could learn quickly. I could learn on the job. I could pursue, other schooling online, other specific trainings. But I was like, I refused to intern for free. It was just a really big value I had at that time, in college. And I was like, I cannot in, good conscience do that. So instead, I took an internship at a place called Revolve, and its headquarters was only 30 minutes away from me in Cerritos. And the internship that I ended up going for was called Stills Photo Intern. And I thought, I have no idea what that is, but there's the word styling in the job description. And so I'm going to apply and see what happens. And crazy thing, I end up getting the internship kind of on the spot. They gave me a tour of the studio and I thought, amazing, this will be the first step in my styling career. And it definitely was. That was my first styling role. And I rocked it for about 3 months. I was paid minimum wage, but still I was paid. And I got my college credit. I did my presentation and I had a lovely time. I met some really lovely people. I had a great boss. And then I graduate from college and COVID happens. Yes, I'm one of the infamous class of 2020 kids who didn't get a graduation. Now, did I walk a year later in a drive-through ceremony? You bet your ass I did, but it was fine. I thought, again, I'm alive. I'm here to tell the tale. I got my degree. That's all that matters. I have my friends who I care about. We've been able to see each other a lot more. And honestly, I was ready for college to end. I was super stressed out. I was also deeply, deeply depressed because I was in the closet. And that's another complicated thing. We're humans, we have layers, but my queerness has always been essential to my styling work and to fashion. So you'll hear me talk about that a lot. Some people might think it's irrelevant. I don't care. I think it's part of me. And it's a huge reason why I'm in fashion and why styling is an interest of mine, because self-expression is so huge. Anyway, back to graduation. I don't have a job. Not many people do in my graduating class, but I reach out and Revolve hires me and say, we'll have you on full time. This is during lockdown, basically, or after lockdown. I'm in full PPE, like styling luxury bags in the office by myself. And it is so isolating. It's so lonely. It's so strange. I only get to see my coworkers in these long lines, going to get our weekly COVID test. It was truly a really interesting time. And it was a time where I was in a bad relationship. I just was not super confident about myself. And the job honestly wasn't fulfilling my heart. I think working in a corporate office has its perks, but it also has a lot of cons. And driving to work every day, being in that office, like during a global crisis, it felt really dark. And that was like no one's fault, of their own. It was just how it felt. And so not even a year into that job, so this is after the internship, this is I'm hired out as a full-time employee, not even a year later, I start experiencing very concerning health symptoms and issues. And again, this is part of my story, and it's something I will advocate for, because styling is not a very accessible industry. The American job market is not very accessible to those with disabilities or chronic illnesses like I have. And so I end up having to actually quit my job at Revolve 11 months in, because I can no longer get out of bed in the morning, drive to work, eat a meal without feeling awful all of the time. And I remember crying at work so much, not only because of the breakup I had, but also because I didn't know what my body was doing. And I was only 23, 22, and I was so scared. I had never felt that physically and emotionally weak before. I felt like I was on the edge of a cliff and I had no one to turn to. And so I ended up making this huge decision to quit my job. And a lot of people at that time were like, why are you quitting this job? It's so hard to get a job right now. This place is paying you. They weren't paying me a living wage, let's say, but it was a job and it was experience that I needed. And I'm so grateful for that time. I'm so grateful for everyone that I worked with who thought of me kindly and believed in my work. But I also knew that my health was so important, and that if I didn't have my health, I had nothing. And I didn't want to be that person, no offense to anyone, being in the hospital on and off because I didn't take my health seriously. And what a huge decision to make as someone in their early 20s. I'm 27 now, like I mentioned, but it was so scary. It was frustrating because I didn't know what was going on. I was going to my doctors, obviously, and they were dismissing me. And I also got scammed by a doctor. Again, I have a lot of stories. I feel like I've lived a lot of lives in this short lifetime. I am barely skimming the surface. But again, this part is really important, because the challenges we face in this world, the obstacles that we face, they're all part of our story, and they drive us closer to our passion. So at this point, I've quit my job. I'm kind of in bed every day. The bed I'm sitting in right now, I'm here every day. I'm crying myself to sleep. I'm experiencing insomnia, mood swings, irregular everything, you name it, digestion problems. But the biggest symptom for me was chronic fatigue. And that was due to lack of sleeping. It was due to my hormones being mixed up. And I finally see a doctor who doesn't take insurance, who costs $300 an appointment. And she tells me, Courtney, you have Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And I definitely cried in her office. I cry a lot. But what a scary diagnosis to receive at, again, my young age. And it wasn't cancer. It wasn't something life-threatening, but it is debilitating. It is lifelong. That's why we call it chronic illness, because it does live in your body forever. And it was terrifying. It was, again, like being queer and being closeted. It was another really heavy weight on my shoulders, another really heavy obstacle and challenge I had to fight my way through. And man, did I fight. I fought every day it feels like a blur now, but I want to say around 1 to 2 years of really being in the depths of these symptoms and the emotional turmoil that comes with it, and the isolation of being in a pandemic and not knowing how to tell my friends, in our early 20s, how I can't hang out with them for more than an hour, because if I do, I'm going to pay the price for the next week. Like, things were so dire. And for the time that I didn't have a diagnosis, the time that I didn't have a medication, I felt like I had nothing to stand my 2 feet on. I was really just free falling, and that scared the shit out of me. And in the back of my mind, the whole time I'm thinking, 1, how do I go on like this? And 2, do I have to give up styling if this is what my body is going to do for the rest of my life? And I'm going to be honest, that's a question I still ask myself a lot, because this industry, not only is it hard on your body, but it demands so much of you. It can be incredibly stressful. It can be incredibly time consuming. It can keep you up at late hours of the night. there are a lot of obstacles to entry in the styling industry that we don't even imagine what a disabled person would look like succeeding here. And there's nothing I want more than to see people who have overcome obstacles and barriers to succeed here. I think anyone should be able to become a stylist, but sadly, we're not quite there yet. And a big reason of why I'm here is to just blow open all of the things that have held people back from entering this career and to make it a better place. So that's a little bit of my backstory. It's not the glitzy glam, how I became a stylist. Oh, I really liked, putting dresses on people. And I just thought, why don't I do that as a career? It's never that simple, right? Or I guess it was at some points, but I love sharing these parts of me because I think they make me human. I think they make me relatable. And honestly, sometimes I need to be inspired by my kick-ass self to keep going because, oh my gosh, I've given so much of myself to be here. I'm not going to give it up that easily. And honestly, it sounds selfish, but I think you need to be inspired by yourself and everything that you've accomplished. You need to be proud. And I wasn't taught to be very proud of myself, just in the environment I was raised in. And so this is me acknowledging what I've been through as part of my story and using it to drive me forward. But anyway, back to styling. How does one technically become a stylist? There are so many ways, and I'm going to get into those in just a second. But to wrap up this conversation about chronic illness, about disability, if you feel, yes, you, like there's something wrong with your body and your doctor's not listening, please reach out. Please DM me. I have resources I can share with you. I have support and acknowledgement I can give you. I will not tell you how hard it is living with an autoimmune disease and not knowing and hearing that there's nothing wrong with your lab work, that you look healthy. That's the biggest slippery slope, and just not being believed. It is the worst feeling in the world. And I know a lot of things have changed in the last, 5 or 6 years since my diagnosis, but wow, it is horrible. No one should have to go through that. And it can just feel like all your dreams in the world are so out of reach. So again, please seek support. I'll add some resources in the show notes as well, but no one should feel alone in their chronic illness or their disability. And I will always be a staunch advocate to the best of my ability for all of us in this community. So just sending out a little love letter to us. It takes a lot to keep going, but nonetheless, we do. Now that you know a bit more about my story, I hope it provides you with some context of why I'm here, why I do the work I do. I think that's all very powerful. I think our stories drive us forward, like I mentioned, and they help us connect, right? I'm not just some stylist who's going to help you go through your closet. I'm also a person who's going to talk to you like a person, and I think that's really important. And I'm all about creating genuine connections. Now, realistically, you're sitting there. That's so great, Courtney. Love your story. You're such an inspiration, blah, blah, blah. Thank you. I'm just kidding. Or am I? And you're thinking, I want to be a stylist. I'm in a completely different industry, or I've worked in fashion in a different aspect, and I want to become a fashion stylist. How the heck do I get there? And to that, I would say, yes, it's so possible. I totally get you. There really is no roadmap for us. There's no, again, I saw fashion styling in a book. There's definitely a lot more books and college programs being created to help people who want to become fashion stylists succeed and be prepared in this world. But there's really, truly not enough education. And especially at the beginning level, even at the intermediate and the expert level, there are such few resources that the people who are there have a total monopoly on the industry. And I think that's so awesome. I think if you can sell an online course for $7,000 to teach someone how to become a stylist, and you want to do that, go for it. There's an audience for that. Probably something I'll never do. Again, I hope I don't bite my tongue in the future. But again, opening the door for people, I don't think should have a price tag. And so if you do genuinely want to become a stylist or you're just interested, I have a free resource guide in the link in my bio to anyone who wants to become a stylist. It's free. It includes college programs. It also includes online courses and a variety of free resources, including this podcast, along with some articles and just an exploratory view of what it looks like to be a stylist. And there's videos from fashion stylists. And that's all really helpful because this career, it's so shrouded, it's so mystified, it is gatekept. I think that is a correct usage of that word in this context. If things are gatekept, I always say I think styling is a trade. There are people within this industry you can mentor under and learn from and assist who will teach you how this career works. But otherwise, you're really not going to find it in a textbook. I mean, I would be so darned if you did. Please show me. I'd love to see it because I'd love to pass that information on. All that to say, there are a few different paths you can pursue to become a stylist. One I've already mentioned, and that is assisting. And so that is seeking out a successful or accomplished stylist in this industry, usually over Instagram, sometimes their website, and just reaching out to them and saying, hi, my name is XYZ. This is my story, and I would like to become a fashion stylist. Are you currently taking assistants or interns? And they might say, yes, I am taking interns. You're not going to get paid. Meet me here at this job and you can shadow me and you'll work under me. And you might think, oh, that sounds pretty easy, except for the not getting paid part. Let me tell you, it's incredibly competitive, especially for the top stylists in this industry, even at the intermediate level. And when I say that, I can explain more about that later, but let's talk about people who've been in the game for 5 to 10 years. It's so incredibly competitive. This is a career a lot of people want to break into. And so that's why free labor is such a thing that it is. And that's why it is so common to work your butt off for many years and not see much in terms of material harvest from it. And again, that's something I really want to change. I remember seeing Chapel Roan stylist Genesis Webb post on her story one time that she was living in her car, I think for several years, until she was able to make a living wage as a stylist. And hot take, I don't think anyone should have to go through that. I mean, I'm lucky enough to be living at my parents' house in my childhood bedroom while I pursue this dream. But for people who don't have that option, what other option is there but to live in your car or to live with a friend or to work a regular 9 to 5, 40 plus hour week job during the week and do styling on the weekends and at nights? It is truly grueling. It is a career that will make you question everything and work your ass off and give it everything you've got. And if you're still like, yes, I want to do it, I will do whatever it takes, then that's amazing. I'm so happy that you've decided this is your path and this is your dream. I think you know instinctively what you're meant to be in this world. And if styling is one of those things, A, I'm sorry, B, it is possible. It does take a lot out of you. And there are, like I said, many different paths. And one of them is assisting. Another one, if you're bold like me, you can choose to not assist, which I'll admit has given me a big blind spot in this industry. And it is something I plan to do soon, is be an assistant. But you can just go for it. And you can, again, I have that corporate background in styling, in photography, styling, and working in a photo studio. So I had that on my resume as something, a foothold for me. And then I also had some projects from college where I photographed and helped styled things for, my college fashion show. I had some mood boards and I was starting to style, family, friends, and take photos of that. So I had a little website put together, and believe it or not, in 2022, I'm sick as a dog in my bed at night and I get a message, a little notification on my account for my website that says, hi, we'd like to invite you to style a shoot for a pride campaign for this company. And we want you to be the stylist. We're recruiting an all LGBTQ team. I had no idea how they knew I was LGBTQ. They probably scoped my Instagram. I'm not sure. Maybe I just have a vibe. Maybe it's really obvious. Guys, I don't know. Either way, I didn't care. I was like jumping up and down like crazy. Again, this is in the thick of me dealing with an autoimmune. and just recently being medicated for it in 2022. It was December. I remember exactly how I felt. And I jumped up and down. It was like I had fully come to life again. I hadn't worked in a year. And I was like, thank God for this. Or wait, was it 2023? You guys, okay, let me go and fact check that. I think it was 2023, actually. That would make more sense. Anyway, I get that email and I honestly thought it was too good to be true. They put the pay, the rate, and everything. It was more than I'd ever made in a day. I will be honest, it was $600 a day. And to me, that was like gold. It still is. That's a pretty good rate for a stylist. And that was my first gig styling on model because I was working in a photo studio with props, with jewelry, with makeup, hair accessories, sunglasses. So I had never styled on model before, which I can dive more into the differences later, but I was like, holy crap, do they know I'm not qualified for this? And I was like, I don't care. I have to take it anyway. So I went ahead and kind of did like a little interview with them. I put on my best smile, my great people working qualities, and I got it. And they chose me and I went, well, fuck, now I have to do this. And I mean, it was the time of a lifetime. That is one of the gigs that will live on in my heart forever. I got to style the Gooder 2024 Pride campaign. Okay, I really think it was 2023. You guys, I'm so sorry about the dates. I don't have it in front of me. I'm not prepared. I'm just going for this. And we were shooting at the top. Anyway, we were shooting at the top of the LA LGBT Center. And there's 8 people. They're all wearing these beautiful monochromatic outfits with the Pride sunglasses limited edition, and they're jumping up and down and getting their photos taken, and I'm in the back with my little styling bag, and I had brought an assistant on because I was like, 8 models, that's so many, what am I gonna do? And I just see the Hollywood sign in the back, and I was like, oh my God, wait, I'm living my dream right now. And I was wearing a mask because, again, COVID was still at large, and I had literally gotten so sick the weeks leading up to it. I was like shopping in Target with the fever. Again, not responsible behavior. But again, you have to want this career more than anything else in your life. And it demands a lot of you. And so I literally tested negative for COVID the day I was supposed to report to the shoot at like 8 a.m. I was like, I'm going there with my mask on. No one can stop me. I was the only one wearing a mask on the set. I was like, I don't care. I just need to be here and not infect people. And I did it. And it was, oh my gosh, it was like my dreams had come true. And it was just that spark I needed to, I don't want to say get my ass out of bed, but like light a fire under me to remember that this is my passion. It's possible for me to do this, and that people are seeking me out for my talents that I don't even know I have and will pay me for it generously. And so it was really, it only took one yes. It only took one person handing me an opportunity for me to say, I can totally do this. And so that's how I got my start in styling. You know, from college to internship to full-time career to medical leave to stumbling into freelancing, all because I had a website up. And that's why I always will say, please make a website, a portfolio for your work, one that introduces you, because people are hiring you and they're also looking at the final outcome, sure, but they're hiring you as an individual. They want to make sure they're hiring someone who's easy to work with, easy to hire, and someone who's kind and personable. And that is honestly the currency of this industry. And there's some ass kissing involved too. I'll admit it. I will admit it. Sometimes you have to play the game to win. And I don't mind most of the time if it's with people who I think are kind and respectful of me. Oh my gosh, there's so many things about this career that you learn about yourself and you learn about, humankind. But what a wonderful first freelance job that was for me. Again, it came totally out of the blue. I think the gods above had blessed me. They took pity on this poor girl crying in her bedroom for 2 years straight. And they said, we need to throw her a bone because she's about to throw away her gifts and her talents, all because of, a medical issue. We can't have that. And gosh, I remember thinking, like, should I tell him I have an autoimmune? Should I tell him I need to sit down, that I need water, like it's going to be hot? And I was just so worried. And I'm on the perfect shoot. They have breakfast catered, lunch catered. They have, beverages. And I was like, this is amazing. I hope every shoot and every gig I get is like that. Spoiler alert, they're not, but some have come pretty close. And so I always will give gratitude to the people who hired me on that shoot. You know who you are. Thank you for investing in me. I'm so young and so green, but I really pulled it off and I made it work. And if you're asking yourself, Courtney, how did you do this if you had never had any experience before? I literally Googled everything. I watched YouTube videos day and night, how to style a photo shoot, how to get clothes for a photo shoot, how to, deal with the budget for a photo shoot, and just asked a shit ton of questions. I reached out to everyone I'd worked with at Revolve and said, I got this job. How do I do this? I was even assisting a stylist with her social media at the time. And I was like, Annalise, how do I do this? And she's like, oh, girl, you got it. You got it. And I was like, okay, but what do I do? And it was really like a do or die moment. And the fact that I pulled it off and pulled it through, and it was so complimented, and the photo shoot was so successful. It went off without a hitch. The collection sold out. Sure, there was anti-gay hate on social media, whatever. There always will be. But that project, again, and that day will remain in my heart forever, because it is the thing that plucked me out of the darkness and catapulted me into my career now. And it was an e-commerce shoot. It wasn't anything super glamorous. It was for product. And it was one location, one look per model, but it made my heart sing. And being on set, on location, it was everything to me. And I will always be chasing that high for sure. But what a beautiful memory in my mental scrapbook. That is the point where I really referred to myself as a stylist, because I had pulled off this photo shoot as the lead wardrobe stylist with an assistant working under me. I don't know what I think I just wanted someone to help me in moments where I was like, what do I do now? But it was wonderful. It was amazing. I met so many wonderful people. I could not have asked for a better first freelance gig. So that is the convoluted story of how I became a stylist. Could I have summarized this? Yes, but that would not have been as fun, you guys. I need to give you the drama, the story, the secrets, the feelings behind it. And I'm serious, because that is all important of how I got there. And I want to paint a realistic, truthful, authentic story of how I got here. Not, oh, I went to college, I got a job, I just decided to go freelance. Like, that's not the real truth. The real truth is I hit rock bottom at 23 and cried in my room every day to my parents. Like, that's the reality. And you know what? Again, I'm not ashamed of it. It's part of my story. It still happens from time to time. Again, having an autoimmune disorder is not for the weak. Being a stylist is not for the weak. You put those together, oh my gosh, every day can feel like an uphill battle. But those moments where you've won, where you've done the job and you're proud of what you've done, it's so sweet. It's so worth it. And I will constantly be evolving myself and this career to work for me, because I don't have to abide by the rules of this industry. I don't have to follow any certain path. I get to create my own path. And like I said in the beginning, this industry doesn't make it easy for us to create community or reach out for support. But I will always believe again and again that you cannot succeed without support and community. And fashion stylists, we need each other. We need to ask one another, hey, what are you getting paid for this job? So that I can make sure I ask for something similar. When we undersell ourselves, we do a disservice to everyone else around us. When we say, yeah, I'll do that shoot for $200. Well, the next time they go and hire your peer, they're going to say, well, our last stylist worked for $200. Why won't you do that? You're going to say, well, a going day rate is $600 or $700 or $1,000. Like, why would I do that for $200? So this is why we all need to be in community with one another, especially styling being a female-dominated industry. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's that much more important for us to be in communication and ask for what we deserve, because people are so quick to take advantage of our skills because, oh, it's just clothes. Oh, you get the clothes for free. Sometimes not. A lot of the times the clothes aren't free, you guys. And so Those are just a few of the secrets and a few of the shrouded elements of this industry I'll continue breaking down in this podcast, episode after episode. I have so many juicy details, so many more stories, and so many more secrets that I'd love to share with you. If there are any specific questions you'd like me to answer, please feel free to leave them on my page, either at Court Stylist or at Diaries of a Fashion Stylist. I have 3 accounts, you guys, on Instagram. It gets confusing. They're all me. They're all ran by me because I'm crazy. But I truly do love connecting with people. That is one reason I chose this career, because it allows me to meet a lot of people all the time. But again, I hope you've enjoyed listening today. I hope you were able to follow me. Maybe next time I'll do an outline, but I really just love speaking from the heart because I think that's where you get the best sound bites. Am I right? So thank you for being here. I love you so much. And thank you for listening to my very first episode of Diaries of a Fashion Stylist. I will catch you next time. All right, guys, take care.